You wake in the night, but something feels wrong. Your eyes are open, yet your body refuses to respond. You try to lift your arm, to scream, to roll away from the crushing weight on your chest, but you can't. The room is silent, but then, from the corner, a shadow begins to take shape. Its outline is vague, shifting like smoke, yet unmistakably watching you. The feeling of dread is overwhelming. Many who've experienced this describe it as the most terrifying moment of their lives. This is not just a nightmare, it's something that millions of people across the world have reported for centuries, and it has a name: sleep paralysis, often accompanied by what witnesses call demons or shadow figures. Here at the Silent Lodge, we explore folklore, forgotten history, and the unsettling truths behind humanity's oldest fears. If you find yourself drawn to the darker side of legends, make sure to subscribe to the Silent Lodge and join us as we step deeper into the shadows where myth and reality blur. Now, let's begin with a chilling truth. The belief in sleep demons is not new. Long before modern science, cultures across the globe tried to explain the horrifying experience of waking while unable to move. In Newfoundland, Canada, the phenomenon was known as the Old Hag. People believed a witch would sit on the chest of the sleeping victim, holding them down, stealing their breath. Stories of the Old Hag were so widespread that to this day, locals still use the phrase hag-ridden to describe a bad night's sleep. But Canada is only one part of the story. In Scandinavia, tales of a malicious spirit called the Mara haunted the night. The Mara would slip into homes and press on the chests of sleepers, filling them with terror. From this belief, we get the very word nightmare, a linguistic shadow left behind by ancient folklore. Further east, in Japan, the experience was named Kanashibari, meaning bound in metal. The term reflected the helpless paralysis victims felt, as if chains had locked their bodies while a spirit loomed above them. Japanese accounts often describe ghostly figures, sometimes ancestors, sometimes malevolent entities, pinning people to their beds. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, sleep paralysis was often linked to the Djinn, supernatural beings made of smokeless fire in Islamic tradition. Many believed that when a Djinn attacked, it would paralyze its victim, feeding on fear or punishing those who had offended it. And in medieval Europe, priests and scholars warned of incubi and succubi, demonic visitors who would torment sleepers during the night. Victims told stories of being held down, assaulted, or drained of energy by these figures. The descriptions align eerily well with modern accounts of sleep paralysis demons. Across continents and cultures, the story is hauntingly consistent. A figure in the dark, a crushing weight, and the desperate struggle to wake. But why do so many people, separated by oceans and centuries, describe the same experience? When we look closely, one pattern becomes undeniable. No matter where you go in the world, the stories of sleep paralysis demons share the same chilling details. A shadowy presence, the inability to move, and the terrifying certainty that something unnatural is in the room with you. But while the experience feels universal, each culture shaped it with its own fears, symbols, and traditions. In West Africa, the phenomenon is tied to witchcraft and spirits. Among the Yoruba people, there is the belief in a supernatural force known as Ogun Oru, sometimes described as a nocturnal witch attack. Those who woke paralyzed believed they were victims of magical assault, targeted by jealous neighbors or spiritual enemies. Fear of Ogun Oru was so intense that communities often performed protective rituals before bed to ward off attacks. In South and Central America, traditions also connect the experience with witchcraft. In Mexico, it is sometimes described as Se me subió el muerto, A dead body climbed on me. People believed that spirits of the dead returned to press down on the living while they slept, often as punishment for unfulfilled obligations to ancestors. The phrasing is eerily similar to reports from Canada's Old Hag legends, again showing that across the globe, people were telling the same story in different words. Even in ancient Greece, philosophers and physicians documented sleep paralysis-like experiences. The famous thinker Galen spoke of people waking up unable to move, terrified by visions in the dark. The Greeks referred to this state as ephialtes, literally meaning the one who leaps upon you. For them, the cause wasn't just a random dream, it was a demon, a supernatural force intruding on human sleep. In Turkey, folklore ties the experience to a creature known as the karabasan. The karabasan is a shadowy being that pins victims down during the night, often suffocating them. To protect themselves, people recited specific prayers before bed or kept protective charms near their sleeping place. Once again, the overlap is striking. The same crushing weight, the same immovable body, the same shadow figure. But perhaps one of the most disturbing examples comes from Icelandic folklore. There, the Mara was not only believed to torment sleepers, but also animals. Horses were thought to wake up sweating and exhausted because the Mara had ridden them through the night. This connection between sleep paralysis and restless nights gave rise to many of the eerie horse-related superstitions still alive today. What's fascinating is that while the names differ, the Old Hag, the Mara, the Djinn, the Karabasan, the Kanashibari, the imagery is almost identical. A presence sitting on the chest, watching silently, feeding on fear. It's as though the human mind, when trapped between waking and dreaming, conjures the same nightmare regardless of culture or language. But is it really only the mind? Or did our ancestors all experience something real, something that transcends borders and religions? For skeptics, the answer lies in biology and sleep cycles. For believers, the explanation is far darker. Modern science approaches sleep paralysis from a very different angle than folklore. According to researchers, what people describe as demons, witches, or spirits are actually the side effects of a natural process in the brain. To understand this, we need to step into the world of REM sleep, the stage of sleep where most vivid dreams occur. During REM sleep, the body is temporarily paralyzed, a condition known as REM atonia. This paralysis is a protective mechanism designed so that we don't physically act out our dreams. For example, if you dream of running, your body doesn't sprint out of bed because your muscles are essentially switched off. It's a necessary function. But sometimes, something goes wrong. The brain can become partially awake while the body remains in this paralyzed state. The result is terrifying. You are aware of your surroundings, but you cannot move or speak. This is the core of sleep paralysis. Scientists explain the shadow figures and sensations of a presence as hypnopompic hallucinations, vivid dream imagery bleeding into wakefulness. Because the mind is still half dreaming, the experience feels extraordinarily real. This can explain why so many people see similar figures, shadowy forms, sinister beings, or the infamous creature sitting on the chest. The sensation of pressure on the chest also has a biological explanation. When people experience sleep paralysis, their breathing can become shallow and labored. In the half-awake state, this can feel like something heavy pressing down, even though no one is there. So, according to science, sleep paralysis demons are nothing more than misfiring neurons and confused brain states. A terrifying illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Yet here is the problem. Science may explain the mechanics, but it doesn't erase the fear. Even when you know the biology, the experience is no less horrifying. Victims report intense dread, often describing a feeling that goes far beyond a normal bad dream. The presence feels real, conscious, and aware. And that's where the debate lies. Skeptics argue it's simply the mind playing tricks. Believers insist the universality of the experience, across cultures, religions, and centuries, points to something deeper. After all, how is it that people in Iceland, Japan, and Nigeria, who had no contact with each other for millennia, all describe the same faceless shadow crouching on the bed? Some researchers in psychology even suggest that the fear response during paralysis may unlock archetypes from the collective unconscious, shared images that emerge in times of extreme vulnerability. Others leave the door slightly open, admitting that while biology explains the mechanics, it may not explain why the hallucinations are so consistent. Is it possible that what science calls hallucinations are glimpses of something real, entities that only appear when we are most defenseless? Or is the truth simply that the human brain, wired by evolution, conjures the same terrifying shapes as a survival instinct? Perfect. Let's wrap this video with a chilling final section. Here's part 4, 500 words, weaving in real accounts, the haunting conclusion, and your outro with a subscribe call to action. For all the scientific explanations, nothing compares to the raw fear of those who've lived through it. To this day, countless people share their experiences online, in journals, or with friends who listen with uneasy sympathy. These are not isolated stories. They're part of a global tapestry of terror that refuses to be dismissed. One man described waking in the dead of night, completely unable to move. From the corner of his room, a tall figure began to approach. It had no face, only a shifting void where eyes should be. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped. The figure climbed onto his chest, and he felt its weight crushing him until, at last, he jolted awake, alone, gasping for breath. A woman in another account recalled waking to the sound of whispers. She was frozen, her body stiff, her mouth locked shut. Standing beside her bed was what she called the hag, a crooked woman with sunken eyes. The whispers grew louder, as though the figure was chanting in an unknown language. Just as she thought she would suffocate, the vision dissolved, leaving her trembling in silence. In yet another testimony, a teenager reported seeing multiple shadow people surrounding his bed. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They simply stood, watching. He described the terror not as fear of dying, but as fear of being claimed, as though these beings were waiting for him to surrender. The consistency of these reports is what unsettles even hardened skeptics. The paralysis, the chest pressure, the overwhelming presence, and above all, the sense that the entity is not just imagined, but aware. Even if biology can explain the mechanics, the emotional weight of the encounter lingers like a scar. And this is why sleep paralysis demons endure in folklore. They are more than medical events. They are personal hauntings, stitched into culture, myth, and memory. From the Old Hag of Newfoundland, to the Mara of Scandinavia, to the Djinn of Arabia, to the Kanashibari of Japan, humanity has always known the fear of something waiting in the dark. So what are these figures? Hallucinations born from a confused brain? Archetypes buried in the collective unconscious? Or true entities that slip into our world only when we're too weak to resist? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between, in the shadows where science ends and folklore begins. If this story left you uneasy, remember, there are countless legends just like it, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be told. Here at the Silent Lodge, we pull back the curtain on the disturbing truths behind the tales you thought you knew. So, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the Silent Lodge. Join us as we continue to explore the folklore, myths, and chilling mysteries that still haunt our world.